Things got intense with this one. The View, long known for its fiery on-air debates and backstage drama, has become one of the most talked-about shows on television. But what really goes on when the cameras stop rolling? Former co-host Candace Cameron Bure is finally lifting the curtain, revealing how producers convinced her to join, what unfolded behind closed doors, and the harsh reality of surviving on such a high-pressure set. Get ready, we're diving into the untold stories and shocking truths that were never meant to air.
If I'm not wrong, because I don't know too much about The View, but I've seen definitely like some controversial clips online or on YouTube, that's a primarily liberal audience.
Oh yeah, it is. That whole show started and it's called The View because it's supposed to be 5 different viewpoints.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much one viewpoint.
That's what I picked up.
Yeah, there's usually like one token conservative. So I was that conservative for 2 years on this show.
But going into it, you knew that you were going to be that kind of token target.
Yeah.
That's exactly the issue. The View loves to brand itself as a place where all perspectives are welcome. But let's be honest, it's about as balanced as a seesaw with a sumo wrestler parked on one side. Sure, they trot out a token conservative, but that role often feels more like a gesture than a genuine seat at the table. The moment that person dares to challenge the show's liberal rhythm, they're met with interruptions, eye rolls, or outright mockery. It's not subtle, it's become part of the show's DNA. There was even talk of bringing on a pro-Trump voice after the election, but seriously, who in their right mind would walk into that lion's den knowing they'd be set up for a battle every single day? And that's what makes this all the more fascinating. With the tension, the politics, and the constant crossfire, what on earth convinced Candace Cameron Bure to step into the chaos?
So what made you accept that job?
Allie, I tried to turn that job down.
Are you serious?
Multiple times.
That's so funny.
Yeah. I know they talk so much politics on the show, and I'm not comfortable with that, so no. And then they came back and they were like, we're actually switching it. It's going to be more pop culture, more evergreen topics. We're not really going to talk about politics that much. And it was like, okay. And then I was like, well, I live in LA and I'm not moving to New York, so no. And they said, we'll fly you back and forth every week. We'll pay for the tickets every week.
The biggest open door.
Like everything I tried to say no to, they had a solution for it. That's when I eventually was like, okay, let's try this. And I said yes. And it was so scary to say yes. And it was a really hard show to do. But I'm really grateful that I did it. It grew me a lot.
Let's rewind to 2015, a time when The View was far from thriving. Ratings were slipping, especially among female viewers, down 9%, while the talk comfortably ruled daytime TV. It was clear, something had to change. Then came Donald Trump, fresh off launching his presidential campaign and dominating the headlines. The producers saw an opportunity and made a bold pivot. Gone was the lighthearted daytime banter, replaced by fiery political showdowns and headline-grabbing moments. The co-hosts leaned heavily into Trump criticism, and suddenly, The View was buzzing again. The more controversial the content, the higher the ratings climbed. Outrage, it turned out, was a winning formula. But it wasn't just about political discussion, it was about crafting explosive, made-for-TV clashes. And for that, the show needed a counterpoint. Enter the token conservative co-host, not to offer true balance, but to provoke, to clash, to create friction. That role wasn't just difficult, it was deliberately engineered for conflict. Candace Cameron Bure found herself right at the center of this strategy. In a later interview, she even revealed how producers coached her on how to stir the pot just enough to ignite viral moments.
I didn't like the rebuttal. I didn't like to have to argue back because I just wanted to share my point of view and then listen to yours and listen to yours and listen to yours. And they were like, no, but you got to keep getting in. You got to if someone doesn't agree with you, you got to go back. And I was like, but I don't like to argue. I just want to share. I want to share, present my opinion, and then leave it alone and take it for what it's worth. Throw it out, take it, or whatever. But I don't want to argue with you. That wasn't my style. So that part was difficult for me.
That revealing conversation happened during a candid interview with Jenny McCarthy, another former co-host who, like Candace, only lasted a single season on The View. But it was Candace's perspective that struck a deeper chord. How do you keep the spotlight without constantly manufacturing drama? The answer, it seems, is to turn every segment into a spectacle, to inflate the stakes as if each episode is reshaping the national dialogue. It's no longer about offering thoughtful, fresh takes. It's about delivering viral, polarizing moments that get people talking, for better or worse. What's ironic is that The View wasn't even built for this level of chaos. Debbie Matenopoulos, one of the show's original co-hosts, reminded everyone of that a few years ago. She described the show's early format as something much more grounded and familiar, like a multi-generational family gathering around the table, your mom, your grandmother, your aunt, your cousin, your sister, and your younger self all sharing perspectives on everyday life. Politics weren't the main course, they were barely even a side dish. But somewhere along the line, the formula changed. Candace even detailed how she had to mentally and emotionally prepare before each show. And that speaks volumes. It wasn't just about voicing an opinion anymore, it was about bracing for impact, anticipating backlash, and surviving a format that had evolved into something far more combative than anyone originally signed up for.
What I really want to know is, you knew you were going on The View, that you were going to be the token conservative.
Yeah.
How did you prepare for each and every episode?
Girl, I have never prepared like I have prepared for that show in my life, okay? So I would do hours and hours of homework every single night. You basically get a packet of about 80 topics the night before because they're all current events. They keep moving and changing, whatever happens in the news cycle. So I would spend probably a minimum of 4 hours each night researching all 80 topics so I could understand what I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And then on the morning of, with the hosts and the producers, they break it down. We go through all 80 topics and then pinpoint maybe 7 or 8 of those that we're actually going to discuss on the show.
And this is exactly why The View's political commentary so often feels paper-thin. While the hosts may want to present themselves as serious political voices, the reality paints a very different picture. Rather than diving into the nuances of policy or offering meaningful analysis, the conversation rarely moves beyond surface-level sound bites. It's driven more by emotion than substance, more about sparking a reaction than starting a real dialogue. The goal isn't to inform, it's to go viral. A sharp zinger here, a trending hashtag there, but little that actually challenges the audience or deepens understanding. What we're left with is a string of flashy moments that resemble a Twitter spat more than a thoughtful political exchange. And sure, that might work if the aim is pure entertainment. But when you brand yourself as a platform for informed debate, that approach quickly rings hollow. Still, to be fair, the show isn't without its bright spots. Even Candace Cameron Bure admitted there was one redeeming quality, and what she had to say about it might just surprise you.
So it was really challenging, but I did as much prep work as I could. Felt like I was in college or in high school or whatever. Yeah. So when I knew the decided on topics, and politics is not my strong suit, or at least it wasn't then. I know a whole lot more about politics now, but I was really learning politics while I was doing that show because we just weren't a family that ever talked about politics at home. So I had a couple of very faithful friends in my life that committed to that 1 hour in the morning of my prep time, because that's about what you get. You get your makeup and hair time, and then but during your makeup and hair time, you have like about an hour and a half before you go on live TV. I know
this was the Lord that called you to this because this is so stressful.
I know.
Look, I get it, this take might ruffle some feathers. But let's be real, for all its chaos, contradictions, and eye-roll-worthy moments, The View does serve one undeniable purpose: it gets people talking about politics. In a media landscape where political fatigue is the norm and many have completely tuned out, the show somehow manages to drag politics into the mainstream conversation. Whether you love it, hate it, or just tune in for the drama, there's no denying that The View puts real issues, elections, policy debates, cultural flashpoints, front and center for an audience that might otherwise ignore them. Sure, the conversations can be shallow, and the framing often biased. But exposure is exposure. Even if some viewers leave with more questions than answers, at least they're engaging with the issues in some way. And let's be honest, in a world where apathy often speaks louder than action, that alone counts for something.